Hello guys and girls, this is Kentucky. We have arrived to the last Demon Hunter spec, which is the Tank of Vengeance. So, at first I would like to tell you that gameplay wise there are several changes in terms of defensive and of course in terms of offensive possibilities. But overall the Vengeance became slightly stronger than it was in Legion. So let's take a look on what's changed in the spellbook. Sorry if this bugs sometimes. Consume magic has been transformed into a offensive dispel. It removes a magic effect from the target, and your interrupt became this disrupt spell. Demon spikes have been changed slightly. It's nerfed. It will give you armor instead of a flat damage reduction. It gives you 5% less parry, and it is on a way longer cooldown, which makes you unable to maintain demon spikes at all times, even with the talent reduction. Moving on, we have lost the Empower Wards magic damage reduction tool. Firebrand has been nerfed. It is on a 8-second cooldown now, which is a -2 second. Imprison is now on a 45-second cooldown from 50. It's just the homogenization for the classes. Moving on, Metamorphosis is also nerfed. It is -20% HP and it won't buff your shear. So it's just a 30% health and armor and 100% armor increase. Of course it generates pain, but that's all what it does. Your shear ability, I have to first talent it. Your shear is your basic ability, and it's changed in great ways because it will always shatter a lesser soul fragment from your target. So it is 100%, it is not a chance, it is for sure generates pain and generates a lesser soul fragment, which is great because the soul fragment generation is much more reliable now, and with this the whole Vengeance Demon Hunter is a much more reliable tank. So basically this is an awesome change. Moving on, Sigil of Misery has been nerfed. It is only on a 22-second duration. It is also a -10-second duration, so it's just a huge cut. Soul Cleave has been changed. Its healing, damage, and pain cost doesn't fluctuate. It's now on a fixed cost, so it was on a as I remember, between 10 and 50 pain and X to epsilon amount of damage and healing. But now it is a flat amount of pain, 30, and a flat amount of damage and healing to you. And of course it will consume up to maximum 2 soul fragments and not all the soul fragments, which is also very important because you can double tap this soul cleave, you can double cast it because you can have at max 5 soul fragments, which with a talent option you can just heal yourself much more than in Legion. Moving on, the Soul Barrier and Spirit Bomb are talent options, but they are almost like the core rotation elements of the spec. So I think we will just take a look on them at the talent section, but basically they're the core of the spec. Chaos Brand is a new passive which Demon Hunters received. It is a magical damage taken debuff on your target. This makes every raid want at least one Demon Hunter inside. So alongside with monks, Demon Hunters will also be a mandatory class for mythic raiding. That's why I think that Chaos Brand is implemented. And of course it's a great help with the tank Demon Hunters in the Mythic Plus situation, because it's much more likely that you will get an invite because you have a debuff that none else has. Of course we received Demonic Wards, a little bit of nerf, because it is minus 10% armor and minus 10% damage taken reduction. So it's just slightly weaker, but I don't think you will notice it because of the Soul Cleave additional healing. So basically that's not a big of an impact. Shattered Soul received another little passive thing, which is that consuming a lesser soul shard fragment heals you for 8% of your all damage taken in the last 5 seconds, and it is a minimum of 1% of your max HP, which is great because during downtime between the demon spikes, the healing from your soul cleave and of course the damage portion of after soul cleave is just and damage taken after soul cleave is just helps you to don't fall down to very low HP between two demon spikes. So it's just a additional healing to you while demon spikes are down when they are not up. So basically that's a great change as well. And Mastery has also been changed. It increases the armor bonus of demon spikes by an additional X% of your agility, sorry. So basically agility will be your most important stat, then Mastery, and of course the other stats are also roughly the same, but you will almost all times go for eye level first because of this new Mastery. So let's see the talent page, because there are also some possibilities here. So let's put it back to Fracture. Basically, I suggest using this version, or maybe the Agonizing Flame or Abyssal Strike version. But at first, let's take a look on each and every role, each and every tier. At first tier, Abyssal Strike, Agonizing Flames, Razor Spikes. Razor Spikes add a damage increase to your Demon Spikes, which is great. It's just a flat out 15% damage increase when your Demon Spikes is up. So basically that's it. And it of course your melee attack snares the target, which is not really big of an impact. Agonizing Flames buffs your Immolation aura. It will also increase your movement speed and it will deal additional damage. It's great mainly in AoE situations. Abyssal Strike increases your Infernal Strike's range by 10 yards and reduces its cooldown by 8 seconds, which is great when you need to move. Just choose Abyssal Strike, and if you have to move a lot, you're just able to use your Infernal Strike much more often, every 12 seconds, and for a much longer distance. So you can see the you could saw the difference between the two options. Moving on to the next tier is Feast of Souls, Fallout, and Burning Alive. Burning Alive makes your firebrand spread every 2 seconds and deal additional fire damage, which is pretty good in AoE situations. If you pair it up with Charred Flesh, it's even better. And of course you should use Agonizing Flames for the AoE damage portion of it. So these three talents are in great synergy for AoE. Lot of trash. If there is a lot of trash that you have to tank, these are great options. But Fallout is also good because Immolation's initial burst has a chance to shatter lesser soul shard fragments. Or sorry, I always say soul shard fragments. I don't know why. Lesser soul fragments from enemies. So it's basically gives a soul fragment generation to your immolation aura. So it's just a increased soul shard generation. And Feast of Souls makes your soul cleave heal for an additional X amount over 6 seconds. So it just places you a hut. And because you can double tap into soul cleave, then you can have at least 2 or more stacks of Feast of Souls up at you at the same time. So it's just great basically in all situations. So I suggest taking this over the other two because there are some niche usage between this Agonizing Flames, Burning Alive, and Charred Flesh, but Feast of Souls, Flame Crash, and Razor Spikes are flat out better than the other options. So moving on to the next tier is Flame Crash, Charred Flesh and Fellblade. Fellblade is just an average damage which generates pain. It could be useful if you're struggling with pain generation, but I don't think it would be an issue. Charred Flesh makes your Firebrand increase the fire damage you deal to the target by 20%. Of course, as I said, it's in a great synergy with the spreading of Fiery Brand and the increased damage of Immolation Aura, which is a fire damage. So you will have more Firebrands up on more targets, and you deal more damage through Charred Flesh to the Firebrand targets through this Agonizing Flames and Immolation Aura. So it's just more damage, but I don't think it's really worth it, mainly because of the 1 minute cooldown on Firebrand. And of course, Flame Crash, when you use Infernal Strike, it will create a Sigil of Flame when you land. It's just a great damage option. It's just, I think, better than the other two options. So I suggest taking this. The next row is Soul Rending, Feed the Demon and Fracture. Fracture is the replacement for Shear. It will shatter 2 lesser soul fragments at all times, and it will generate a large amount of pain. For example, 25 pain to be exact, and it is on a 3.7 second recharge reduced by haste, which is really important because of course Demon Spikes is also, its cooldown is reduced by haste. Throwglave's cooldown is also reduced by haste, so these 4 spells are all cooldowns are reduced by haste, so haste is a good, I don't know how good, but I think it is a pretty good stat for the Vengeance Demon Hunter. And Feed the Demon is the cooldown reduction on Demon Spikes whenever you consume a soul fragment. Basically it's good, but this cooldown reduction is not enough to be good, I think. If you choose Feed the Demon, you should choose Fellblade for the increased pain generation, basically, because you lost a lot of pain generation and a lot of lesser soul fragment generation from Fracture. If Fracture would be in another talent row, for example here, or here, or here, then Fracture with Feed the Demon would be an awesome gameplay style, because you can just consume a shit ton of soul fragments and reduce the Demon Spike's cooldown by a large amount. But in this current situation you can't do that, so I suggest using Fracture over Feed the Demon, because you have other tools to mitigate damage when there is downtime between Demon Spikes. Soul Rending is just a, like, there's no sense to use it because it is 5% leech, which is very weak, and you've got 25% leech while Metamorphosis is active, which is also really doesn't matter because you can just self-heal yourself for much more than this leech. So basically it's just bullshit. So you should choose Feed the Demon and Fellblade or Fracture with this talent setup and situation, and follow another playstyle. Next tier is Concentrated Sigils, Quickened Sigils, and Sigil of Chains. Sigil of Chains is just a AoE movement speed reduction tool. Quickened Sigils makes your sigils activate faster and reduces their cooldown by 20%, which is really good, but you will still have to target all of your sigils. And of course, Concentrated Sigils makes all sigils targeted at your feet. So it's basically much more easy to play around because you can just go there, place a sigil, go there, place another sigil, and go there, place another sigil. So basically I much more like the Concentrated Sigils style of play than the Quickened Sigils. Moving on to the next tier is Gluttony, Spirit Bomb, and Fell Devastation. Fell Devastation is a huge damage in front of you, and of course a huge heal to yourself. I think it is currently on a too long cooldown to be useful in any situations, basically. And Gluttony is also pretty weak because consuming a soul fragment has a chance to activate Metamorphosis for 5 seconds, but since this chance is not that high And of course, Metamorphosis is not that strong as in Legion. I don't really think that Gluttony is useful, mainly because of it's too random. And Spirit Bomb just gives you a flat out very nice self-heal because it applies frailty to your target, which damages them for a percentage, and then heal you for 10% of all damage that you deal to the enemies with frailty. So it's just an AoE self-heal basically, which is great, and I think you should choose Spirit Bomb in all situations between from these three talents, because this is flat out better than the other two in my opinion. 110, and with this the last row is Last Resort, Void River, and Soul Barrier. Void River is just a flat 6% incoming damage decrease, so it is a 6% damage taken reduction. I think it's just damned weak. It's not even useful. Last Resort is the talent that saves your life when you would take fatal damage. It will transform you to Metamorphosis and return you to 30% health. It is very useful if you are a beginner demon hunter and you don't really sure what you have to play or how you have to play. It will save your ass just as DK's Purgatory, so it's just a great talent. But with Soul Barrier you can just shield yourself with a 50% of your maximum HP shield. So that's just a huge shield every 30 seconds. It is, like, I think the best talent in the tier, and it helps you always also cover the downtime between the two demon spikes. So between demon spikes you can use Soul Barrier to shield yourself, you can use Firebrand to reduce the incoming damage, you can also self-heal yourself between the demon spikes with Soul Cleave, and of course the healing portion of Spirit Bomb. So basically with this talent setup you can just always able to maintain solid self-healing with defensive cooldowns rotating, and I think that's just a great style of play. So let's first take a look on how this plays. Reset this, leap into battle again, generate some soul fragments, just apply everything, then just gather some soul fragments to use our shield. We have again demon spikes available. If you don't have demon spikes available and you have to heal yourself, then just use Soul Cleave, cast Soul Barrier with 4 soul shards at all times if possible, and whenever you don't have Soul Barrier up or Demon Spikes up, you should use Firebrand to reduce the incoming damage. And if you don't even have Firebrand and Soul Barrier is on cooldown and Demon Spike is on cooldown, you just have to heal yourself with Soul Cleave. Oh, I just noticed that Soul Cleave is increased the Feast of Souls duration, refreshes it when you double tap into it. I didn't notice it in the last build, so it's could be a change during, but you can just maintain a hot on yourself, which is also great. So basically this is how a demon hunter plays, but it is really hard to show you how a tank DH plays, or any tank plays, because it is pretty different in the live version when you're actively tanking instead of the target dummy. So basically these are your main damaging source. Of course your melee is a huge damage, Fracture and Immolation Aura and Soul Cleave are your 3 main damaging abilities, and the others are just like additional little niche damage bonuses, and they are of course here to just increase your survivability. So I hope you liked it. I think this is a really good class, and there is only 3 more specs remaining, and these are the Death Knights, which will be following next. So thanks for watching it, and I hope you see you in the next video. Let's have fun, and goodbye.